My name is Alexander Kopatz. I study brown bears. I am based in northern Norway, and in our team, we study bears across northern Europe. So my talk is practically just a teaser of my upcoming 2 talks about what we do with brown bears, how we study them. So this is just a general overview, and that's why I call it Why and How to Study Bears. I want to start with the questions. Besides the 2 previous slides, I need a reaction from you. I would like a reaction from you when you actually have seen a bear the last time. I mean, not in nature, but like specifically in the media. So was it in the news, or B, in a nature documentary, or have you seen a bear lately in an internet video or in a meme or GIF? So perhaps you could give me a very quick response with A to B. Whether a majority of the class maybe has noticed a bear lately. We see bears quite a lot in our media. Is it like in TV or especially in the internet and our social media? So whether it's a meme like this confession bear, or we see the vast amount of YouTube videos which spread our social media feeds. And the point I want to make is bears are pretty abundant actually in our media life. So I think we all have seen at least a couple or more of these videos you have seen on this slide. Bears are part of our cultural heritage. So before I go into the biology, I just want to quick point you out that bears have always been part of our history. Especially in the bedtime stories you've heard, or stories you got told by the elderly people, and especially back in the times in our mythology. But I just want to show here an example. The coat of arms of the city of Berlin has a bear in it, and also the city of Bern. So just to represent the history, we basically, especially in Central Europe, where bears are almost not existent anymore, have been part of our time. So the history of bears has not been really that great when you look at how they are distributed nowadays. The humans have reduced bears massively, especially in Central Europe. So they really hunted them down over the last centuries and wiped them out many countries in Europe. So like look at this map, this is the current distribution and historical distribution of brown bears around the globe. The current range is represented by the dark green. You can see here, there's a few dots here. And the light green is the historical distribution of brown bears. So the original area where brown bears are distributed was reduced by roughly 60%. And you can see, and you note maybe that the brown bear is abundant mainly or to the northern hemisphere. I don't want to go too much into animal systematics here, but I really want to stress the point and the difference between the grizzly bear and the Eurasian brown bear. You have the grizzly on the left and the Eurasian brown bear on the right. Both belong to the species of the brown bear, but they are subspecies. And often when I discuss with people in Europe, they kind of take the behavior of the grizzly bear, that actually the European brown bear should behave the same, which is absolutely not the case. So the main difference between these 2 species is first the size. The grizzly is much larger, sometimes even double the size of the European brown bear, while the European or Eurasian brown bear is a bit smaller, and they differ significantly in the terms of behavior. So grizzly bears can be much more aggressive and much more dangerous to humans than, for instance, the Eurasian brown bear. So it's very unlikely in Europe to experience the same cases of attacks you sometimes hear from Northern America or Kamchatka, for instance. So there's only one demographic which is a bit more prone to attacks of bears in Europe. That's a lot of times this is hunters, because they move much more slowly through the forest, are more silent, and they carry weapons. And the Eurasian brown bear can be very dangerous, especially when it's surprised. If it's cornered or when it's injured. So if, for instance, somebody tries to shoot a bear and doesn't hit it directly, this bear will fight, of course, for his life. So this is the difference I really want to point out and want to bring across. Just another question. This is the last one for this talk. Before I go to the situation in Europe. So what do you think currently, or which of these European countries houses the most bears nowadays? Is it A, Sweden, B, Romania, or C, Finland? Diverse answers. So we have A, B, and C actually in different replies. A, C, I think more or less the same amount. 2 B's, 2 C, 2 A's. Very interesting. So here's the current distribution of brown bears in Europe. So actually Romania houses the largest brown bear population in Europe with approximately 6,000 bears. Then there's another large population in Sweden, which is about currently 2,800, which has been actually much higher, over 3,000, but it has been hunted down a bit to reduce the numbers. And the Finnish population is about 2,000. I mean, we are neglecting here the vast amount of bears of Russia. I mean, this is not included in the map, but Russia is a bit of a black box for us. We just know that there are substantially a lot of bears. Rough estimates count about 30,000 bears in European Russia nowadays. So, as you can see, here's the distribution of brown bears in Europe. These red areas represent areas where bears are actually abundant all the time. The orange areas is where bears are occasionally observed, and the green areas represent areas where the bears are virtually absent. So we have the large populations of Romania. We have the Fennoscanian population, which is quite heavy in numbers. Then you have the Dinaric Balkan population here, which across about several countries from Slovenia to Greece, including parts of Bulgaria. We have Slovakia and southern Poland. And then you have these isolated populations, which are actually quite endangered in Italy, in Abruzzo Mountains and Trentino. You have northern Spain, which is also a very interesting population, but unfortunately very small. And then you have the bears in the Pyrenees. So you see, bears are actually not evenly distributed. And I forgot Estonia, actually. Estonia is actually also a massive brown bear population, considering its size. So if we would have drawn this map like 40, 50 years ago, the bears would be virtually absent from many areas. Maybe in southern, southeastern Europe, you would still find the bears, and maybe a few ones in northern Europe. But populations actually have recovered due to the legislation made in the 60s and 70s to protect bears, to regulate hunting and control for hunting. So that, on the other hand, is of course a very nice thing from the conservation point of view, but also it includes some challenges, which I come in a minute. Just to show you that overall, across the globe, there's about 200,000 bears, just topped by the American black bear, which about have almost 1 million individuals in North America. So then comes the gray wolf, sea otter, and so on. So the point I want to make here that the brown bear is actually a very abundant species, so it's not threatened. So the populations, despite a few regions like I saw in Cantabria or in Trentino in Italy, they don't do that well, but overall brown bears do quite well across the globe. But brown bear population expanding in some areas can also cause a bit of a problem. I mean, humans are expanding too. We nowadays, our population is growing, and we are coming into areas which are more formerly natural. We have a history of destroying our environment and fragmented habitats, and due to climate change, former areas are much more livable nowadays, and tourists are coming in and floating in. So we have, on the one hand, the increasing number of bears, and we have the increasing number of humans. This is a challenge actually for society and of course research too, how to deal with it. So I think coexistence is possible, but this is the challenge we basically face as a society, and specifically as also researchers and brown bear managers. The point I want to make here, actually, the legislation with the protection of bears and the society being curious, being kind of protected from bears or dealt with the problems, demands actually that we study bears. So I come now to a few facts of brown bears. This is maybe a bit side of the talk, but they're actually very important factors when studying bears. So before I come also to why we actually study in terms of research, we have now the society, cultural aspects, just a few facts. But the bear is a territorial animal. So that means once the bear has settled in an area, it establishes a home range, which lives most of the time, and it tends to protect against other individuals. Males tend to have larger home ranges. For instance, in northern or in Sweden, it's about 300 square kilometers on average. Females have half of it, like 150 square millimeters. And females actually tend, especially related females, tend to have overlapping home ranges, so that they sometimes feed and they kind of stay in the area, while males start to disperse to find new areas and actually to avoid inbreeding with their sisters or cousins. I hope I'm not too fast. The brown bear is a solitary individual, so it normally roams alone through the area, except for mating seasons, when actually males and females meet to mate, and of course other males meet to fight against the females. And here's of course the females having overlapping areas. I was a bit too fast with that. But also males, actually, especially young males, they roam around for some period of time together. Once they split from the parent, from the mother, and they kind of hang around a bit until they also go separate ways. The European brown bear, or the brown bear, is omnivorous. That means it basically eats everything they can get. They are opportunists when it comes to food, so they don't search long. If they can find meat, they will immediately consume it, and berries and so on. Of course, it depends strongly on the season, what kind of food is available in the nature. Like in spring, they eat sometimes most of carcasses, then in later spring on young leaves, and summer and ants. And especially in autumn, which is very known that they eat the berries because of the fruit sugar to build up a lot of fat layers for the winter. And bears are actually very skilled in finding food. So a recent study from Sweden, for instance, showed that they are very good in finding the best places for berries in an area. It is promiscuous, so it means that males and females mate with different partners, so they don't have one particular partner they stay with. So it's normally the strongest male in an area which dominates the breeding behavior. So the dominant male gets to fertilize offspring with the females in an area. But what is very interesting, the so-called sexually selected infanticide has been observed in brown bears now for several times. I'll just explain what it is. It's the same the behavior what has been observed in lions. So that, for instance, a new dominant male, which enters the area while the other one is absent or died, can actually kill the offspring of the other male from the female. And the female gets into heat very quickly after a few days, so that the new dominant male can actually fertilize offspring on its own. So this is biologically super interesting, of course very hard to study, but this also causes a problem a bit with the hunting in some areas. So when there's regularly the dominant male has been removed, so and the breeding or the reproduction is constantly disturbed, that can cause a bit of a trouble for the population in an area. The European brown bear is elusive. That means that it's actually very shy and avoids contact with humans. So if you actually see a bear in nature, you can consider you're normally very lucky, unless it's of course attracted by food or something. Most brown bear populations, especially when they are stable, they are hunted legally. So there's always a hunting quota to keep the numbers stable or sometimes reduce it. But of course, in a lot of areas, illegal hunt is still a problem. But of course, it's very difficult to have any information on it because it's done secretly. We just know that it occurs. From the conservation point of view, bears are keystone species. They actually have a lot of effect on other species in an area. So if it's like leaving carcasses or spreading seeds with their feces, just to name an example. They're also indicator species. That means they are very characteristic for the environment they live in. So if one wants to describe an environment where bears live, so you always cover a lot of aspects of this environment. And moreover, bears are an umbrella species. So if you are allowed to protect bears, it has large effects on the protection of other species in an area. So despite the reasons of cultural and society I mentioned here, there's a lot of other reasons we want to study bears from the scientific point of view. But still, that's why I've also told you this fact just before. Bears, it's still not an easy study species. So it's elusive, so it normally avoids having contact with you. So it's very difficult to observe, for instance. It's very difficult to detect and especially to track down. So you need skilled personnel and a lot of time. So basically what I want to say is it's a huge effort actually to study bears, especially if you want to have sufficient data to write studies about. So the bears, on top of that, bears are actually then for almost half a year, depending a bit on the region. Up here in the north, it's at least 6 months. We spend over the winter in the den, so the time frame is actually very limited where you can study bears. Of course, some people have started to study bears in dens, but that is also not very easy. From a scientific point of view, bears are also very popular. On this table, you see the numbers of scientific papers published in the last 110 years on large carnivores. On the top, we have the red fox, second is the wolf, on the third is already the brown bear with almost 800 scientific studies published. So it's a very popular research object. That also means that we actually know also a lot about brown bears. I think that is another reason why we actually keep researching brown bears, because we know already so much. I can tell you from my experience with research, once you have completed a study and you have answered some of your questions, you have actually 10 or more questions, new questions, which you want to go more into detail or some new aspects showing up. So this is actually very good to have reference studies like this 800, which you can compare your new data or new results to. So in that sense, it is a very good study species. So we have a lot of data and results we can compare it to, and also a lot of new questions popping up. So we can actually conduct a lot of advanced studies on the brown bear. For example, when there are new methods coming. We have also a lot of data where some bears are colored maybe, so we can test a lot of things. That brings me to how we actually study bears. There are different methods how actually to monitor, to study, and to research bears. So I can already spoiler, there's not one method which is best. We basically need all of the methods because it is a difficult study species, nevertheless. It's very challenging. So first of all, it's observations. Basically, everybody can do it, can see a bear and report it, and then it will be recorded. So you get an idea about the occurrence. So are there bears in an area? You may get an idea about the numbers. There are several statistics available nowadays. You get maybe an idea about reproduction, especially when you see brown bears with cubs in an area. And with the numbers, you can also deduce the density of bears. It's also very important measure to know how many bears are actually in an area, and maybe there are maybe too many bears, so they start already dispersing. I said it can be done by anyone, but however, this data can be heavily biased because, like normal people, sometimes have difficulties to even distinguish a bear. Sometimes a bear is mistakenly taken as a dog or the other way around. I have experienced that. Laymen maybe are not, especially not experienced maybe to distinguish between males and females. And bears move quite a lot. So one bear actually can be seen within a short time frame on different places in an area. And sometimes these are mistakenly taken for two different bears or many bears. So overall, this observational data tends to overestimate bears in an area. So there's a bias. And nevertheless, it's already a very good information. Then you have the hunting. I mean, like I said, in stable populations, bears are hunted. And the hunting quota actually is based on the observations often. So once the government or the management has an idea how many bears in the area, the hunting quota is set. So how many bears can actually be shot. So this is also kind of representative what's going on in an area. So, and of course, hunting gives you access to a vast amount of information about the bear you just shot or killed. So you have the individual bear, you can measure it, how heavy it is, how large it is, and what condition it generally is. You get the sex information, it's a male or female, which is also very important information to the sex ratio. As I said, the morphology, you can study the diet once the intestines are removed. You get a lot of data on physiology. You can age the bear depending on the growth of the teeth, and you get a lot of biological samples, which also is good for DNA analysis. So this is also a very informative method, but also it's a lethal method. Once the bear is shot, it is totally removed from the population, and it might also be an ethical issue. Then, of course, you can capture a bear, mark it, like with the ear mark, or like it's done nowadays with the GPS collars. And then you can track the bear, like the movement and the location. So once you catched it, you get a lot of information about the individual. You can have data on the morphology and sex. Sometimes physiology. You can include physiology loggers, so measuring the heart rate and the metabolism of the bear when it's moving. And you can take biological samples, hair, blood, and some tissue, and so on. Also, this is highly informative, but also very invasive and expensive. So it's actually quite an effort to track down a bear, capture it. So you need direct contact to the animal again. You need very skilled people to do that, to tranquilize the bear, to measure the amount of tranquilizer you need actually to dart on. So, yeah. It needs skilled people, and it can cause actually stress for the animal and the people involved. And it's also a bit dangerous. Then you have the so-called non-invasive techniques, which are represented by footprints or droppings you find in the forest, or scratch or bite marks on beehives or trees. So also here, people need to be a bit skilled to actually distinguish, especially bite marks or scratch marks. Footprints are probably very easy to discover, but also there's a problem of individuality here. So sometimes you cannot really distinguish how many bears are walking on the same path, or especially what individual it is. But also it gives you an idea of the occurrence of bears in an area. You may get an idea of numbers, how many bears, how many different paw sizes, one could see number of cubs, much easier to distinguish. You also get an idea about the density of bears in an area. So this is the field I'm working in. This is a quite new method, but it's already 20 years old, but it has been developed very quickly over the last 2 decades and improved really good. In the beginning was much poorer results, but it's called the non-invasive genetic sampling. So what we use is biological samples lost by the animal in the nature, meaning like feces and droppings and hair. The good thing is you can involve laymen here, which are collecting feces for us. So for instance, in Norway, the national monitoring works like that especially hunters or everybody who finds a bear feces can collect it and send it into the management, and then they will later on send it to us where it will be analyzed genetically. So every year we get at least 1,000 or even more samples from all over Norway to kind of see how many bears are actually in the country. So it's also very informative. So we get individual data, so we are able to distinguish between individual bears. We are able to distinguish between the different sexes, which is also very important. With the feces, you can further process them for diet analysis, for instance. But we also get information about in what areas particular bears are actually moving or living, because often you find feces or droppings from the same individual again and again over the course of the year. So then you get quite an idea where some bears are actually living. This is also very informative and very simple method actually, but on the other hand it needs quite some logistics. You have a good network of people and infrastructure to actually collect the feces. The feces should be preferably stored in a freezer or in some kind of special buffer, chemical buffer, so that the DNA stays intact. And of course you need the genetic analysis, which has become a bit cheaper nowadays, but still it's costly. It costs some money. Very quickly, I don't want to go deep into this. Is another reason why we actually should study bears. There's a lot of studies going on medicine and physiology. So the bears, despite all the studies you have seen, there's still a lot of unknown about bears, especially for the denning behavior. So how actually are they doing? How do they manage with their metabolism during winter? Why they don't lose any bone mass? Why they don't get hurt while lying down for so long? So this is actually very high relevance, for instance, for hospitals. People have to lie down for a long time that they don't get hurt, and actually for space travels too. So some space agencies are very interested in how bears actually hibernate. How do they manage? Then on the other hand, the quite new field is the field of genomics. The whole genomes of bears are analyzed to look on gene expressions, how proteins are actually built. So that gives quite an information about evolution of species and also for medicine as well. So in combination with, for instance, with the denning behavior and the gene expression, will give very big and relevant information to move on in human medicine, for instance. I just want to come to the conclusion already. I don't want to make it stress it too out too much, because there's 2 other talks coming from me where I will go deep into these methods. So as I said, there's not one method for how to study actual bears. We need all of them, because it is still a very challenging species to study. So that you need all the information you can get out of some bears in a specific area. Methods have improved, luckily, and people are learning. So the good thing on the side is that when bears are abundant in an area again, sometimes some people might be hostile to it, but also a lot of people actually get used to it again. So they start tolerating bears, they actually get interested into bears. So they are much better in collecting. For instance, I remember feces collection at the start has had much more negative samples, or let's say some quite amount of wrong samples in the mix. Nowadays, a lot of people are able to distinguish bear feces from other droppings, and new methods are developed. So there's a lot of things we still have to learn about bears, as I told you. And just to summarize the reasons, break very down. So we have actually, bears are part of our natural heritage, cultural heritage, and actually they're very important study species if we want to move along in conservation, and especially science too. Prior to this lecture, I asked on Facebook a few colleagues of mine, why do they actually study bears? I wanted to hear what their reasons are. So you don't have to read all of them. I just wanted to highlight the diversity of answers. This is only a small part of it. So besides saying bears are amazing and they actually rule the world, some say that, yeah, they hold many secrets. How do they manage actually without losing bone mass, for instance? And actually, especially some people say they actually enhance our understanding how we actually can coexist with large carnivores and bears in an area. So, but the bottom line is that people have many reasons why they study bears. Some, of course, want to conserve them. Just to the end, why do I study bears? I started out with wolves. So I never had the idea to study bears in the first place, but I was interested in large predators and so on. But my former boss, he approached me that he needed somebody to study bears. So, but I didn't have to think about 5 minutes, so I agreed on that. because I studied wolves before, and there's a lot of heat going on when you study wolves. So even researchers are facing a lot of threats and heat. But that was not the main reason I didn't want to do it. But of course, it helped a bit because it's much more relaxed with bears. But also at that time, I was looking for a new challenge, and it came at the right time. So that's why I studied bears. I was interested. I actually wanted to conserve them, and I still want to conserve them. And now, while studying it, and as I said, when you get deeper into the things, more and more questions pop up. They actually show how interesting it is to study. There's so many layers of things you can find about the species. And moreover, that maybe I forgot to tell you, one of the most important facts actually about bears is these are individuals. So they don't act in a group or something. So you have really shy individuals, you have very bold individuals, you have more aggressive individuals, you have nicer individuals. So this is actually what interests me a lot in bears, this individuality about bears. And how do I study the bear? So this is a bit of a spoiler to one of our upcoming talks about how to pluck a bear. So we use a lot of non-invasive genetic sampling, as I said, like feces, and we do a lot of so-called hair trapping. So we systematically attract bears to a place with barbed wire where they leave their hair. We later use this for DNA analysis, and this works actually quite well. So this is also not a superior method to other, but it's also a very good addition to the other methods to systematically assess the bears in an area. And as you can see from the picture, it delivers quite some interesting results on the science side, and also some very interesting and funny pictures on the general side, or for the pictures. So I think I stop here now. Then we have still 5 minutes or so for questions. I hope it's okay what I told, and I think I said everything I wanted to say.